Hello, and welcome to another episode of Plastic Surgery Unfiltered, a podcast at the intersection of healthcare, business, and the beauty industry. I'm your host, Dr. Armando Davila, and I'm joined today by a new co-host, Ashley Harris. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Great. Ashley is one of our brand new nurses. We're very excited to have her here on the team, and she's going to bring some fresh ideas to the podcast and to the organization. So today's episode, the life you imagine in your mind. Why extraordinary people think different.
Yes.
I'm excited. Ashley, to start off the question, well, how about you introduce yourself a little bit? Tell me a little bit about how you found yourself here, what you've done in the past, and
Sure.
maybe some of your hobbies, why you think extraordinary.
Yeah, so I've been a nurse now for about 8 years, which is crazy to believe that because it has gone by so fast. I've done a lot of different things in nursing. I've worked in cardiology. I worked for Restore Hyper Wellness. They do a lot of IV infusions, hyperbaric oxygen chambers, cryotherapy there. I've worked for a hormone clinic, learned a lot of things there, and did a little bit of aesthetics at the hormone clinic as well. Mm-hmm. And then spent some time in the OR. So that's how this place brings all my gifts and skills together, which is how I found it. Yeah.
Well, awesome. Again, I'm so glad to have you here on our team, and you can bring some of those skills from the other places, and we'll pile on a few more here. Yeah. So, one of the big things I think about all the time in how we address our clientele and what we do here is, patients come and they say, "Oh, you did this thing, and now I'm so confident," mm-hmm. right? And in some ways, I think people really enjoy that. They're like, okay, well, yeah, I did something for this person. But I always think, did the patient get confident because they had surgery, or did they get surgery because they finally believe they deserve to be confident?
I think it's a mixture of both.
Okay, tell me.
I think that some patients get the surgery that they have imagined in their mind and have a result that they imagined, and so they get the result they want, and their self-image changes. The way that they see themselves essentially changes. So then they start walking through life with a new image of who they are, and that brings different opportunities to them because they act different. They're more confident in talking to certain people or talking a certain way or putting themselves in certain situations, which brings new life experiences, which enhances the confidence. So I think that surgery can help increase confidence.
Okay.
I also think that sometimes people have had a self-image in their mind that's been poor. Like, say they've had a lot of weight on them, they lose weight, they start to feel more confident with that weight loss, and then with that, they start thinking, I could do more to enhance the way that I see myself. Mm-hmm. And so they go down the surgical route, and then it becomes another intervention that they pull into their tool belt to help them have an improved self-image.
Yeah, I mean, Gosh, so many thoughts off what you just said. I think that one first thing is the patients that lose weight, man, they really do go through a lot, right? To a certain extent, when you get very heavy, mm-hmm. right? There's things that get damaged in the body that will never go back to normal, mm-hmm. And even after surgery, we're sort of making corrective actions. It's pseudo-reconstructive, I think, in many cases, but we will never restore 100% of what it was before. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that can be really demoralizing about losing weight is that patients they lose all this weight, mm-hmm. and they often don't look always, quote, better, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. The extra skin, all that sort of stuff can sometimes feel in their mind like they look worse. Right. And so they have to stay focused, and that's why I think it's so important, and why in bariatric surgery there's so much like nutritional help and psychological help and all that stuff, because as you lose that weight, you have to stay on focus that you're doing this for your health, right. Number one, mm-hmm. and then hopefully it starts to increase your confidence because you get to do more things, be more active, mm-hmm. but then that last part you need help with, and really you need help with all of it. Again, you need help with the nutrition, you need help with the like healthy habits, with the psychology of it. So I think that's one challenge, right? I mean, how do you see that idea of like playing this out in your mind? Do you think that that's the disconnect? They think, oh, I'm going to lose weight and I'm going to be like skinny.
Maybe for some people, I think something happens in their life that kind of wakes them up to the fact they need to lose weight, and that sets them on the path of this new mindset to lose weight. It could be, I know it's like for some women, they have children and they don't want their children to go through everything that they went through, whatever they did to become that heavy. So they start thinking to themselves, I need to do something different. How do I do something different? And then it sets them on that trajectory.
The second thing. Okay, so then how does this play in right into the idea of the life you practice in your head? What are stories? Because it works both ways, right? There's both the, telling yourself a story for something you want to accomplish, but then there's also the stories that you tell yourself that limit you. How do you think that affects people, or have you seen that when people limit themselves artificially?
Yeah, I see it. It's actually one of my biggest pet peeves when I see an idea brought to somebody and they don't even go down the path of wandering themselves into that idea. They see all the reasons why they shouldn't do it, which usually is backed by fear, or they're thinking about consequences of those actions and what that could bring about that is negative, instead of looking at, well, what could it bring about that's positive? How can this bring new, fresh ideas into your life, or bring new people into your life, or give you the confidence that you need if you do make that decision? I see that happen a lot.
Yeah, I think fear, right? And we talked about fear in our employee development this week to a certain extent. I think that, and I love that you said wonder, right? I'm a WI Lencioni. We talk about Lencioni on the podcast. So I wonder. And so one of the things is I not only wonder about the world, but I wonder about people. Do you know what sonder is? Have you ever heard that term?
No.
So sonder is the action of essentially wondering about people, or not. So when you walk down the street, right? Let's say you walk down the street in New York, there are thousands of lives around you, right? And in each of those humans is a mind, and a mind that is infinite, right? And sondering is the idea that as you walk by those people, you realize that those people have lives as complex and as intricate and as infinite as yours, and that you're surrounded by thousands of them. And it's a little bit overwhelming when you sonder. I sonder a lot. It's a little disruptive sometimes, but it helps me. It really helps me give perspective about the people I work with. And I always say, okay, I'm working with someone. They have a mind. They have a life. They have an infinite amount of experiences that they can have. And, what do they want? Where do they want to go, right? And I see that with my employees a lot. I want them to achieve something, and you need to push them sometimes past that fear. And it's not easy. And I'm, like I said, I'm not always nice about it, right? Some coaches are not always nice about getting people to achieve their dreams. So again, one of the things I struggle with that idea is, how much do you think that confidence is created by kind of external motivating factors, like external success, versus an internal belief that you just sort of believe that you're succeeding?
I think they play off of each other. I think the external successes you experience play into your internal confidence. And I think what happens sometimes is that people have a lot of external, what they perceive as failures, right? And that hurts the internal confidence. So the problem comes in when you're relying, though, on the external successes to feel the confidence. The strength lies in learning how to feel confident despite how you perceive what's happening around you as a failure or a success. It doesn't matter. The confidence should still remain.
Yeah, I think that's another thing I tell my wife a lot. I am very internally driven, internally motivated. And so whether people think I'm doing a good job, doing a bad job, it doesn't actually matter. It's really about what I believe I'm doing. And it works both ways. I'm in my ballroom class and I'll do something and I know it's bad. I know it is. And my dance instructor will go, "Oh, that was so great. High five." And I don't give her a high five. I'm like, "No, that was not good. Don't lie to me and tell me it's not good. I know I can do better." And she's like, "Well, you're just starting." I'm it doesn't matter if I'm just starting. We're not comparing me to a reference point. We're comparing me to what is good, or what my expectation of good is. And so let's get on the same page about what my goals are, right? And so that was important because I went to her and I'm like, in a year I want to compete. So, and that immediately changed her reference point, because now she's like, I need to get you competition level ready within a year. And so now she stopped saying good job so much, right? Because now I'm not on target for that thing. And that's important when I talk to people about what their goals are, what they want. And I think that ties into your idea, right? If they haven't imagined it in their head, how can we even start?
Right. Like going off of what you said, you imagine yourself competing, right? So you imagine that first, that started as an idea in your mind, you picturing yourself competing, and then it comes out and you telling your instructor, I want to compete, which then changes your whole life experience. So it truly does start with how you think, where you think you can go, and what you think you can do, and being able to identify that.
What is something like in that vein, what is something that you believed was possible about yourself before anyone else believed it?
I believe, so I've run an ultra marathon, and I knew, like, without a shadow of a doubt I could do it. And there was nothing anybody could tell me that I couldn't. I knew that I could. I heard a lot of people around me tell me, that's really hard. Is that even, are you going to be able to do it? Are you going to be able to finish? I never thought that I couldn't. And so because I never thought that I couldn't, I completed it. In my mind, though, I thought to myself, you know, if by chance I get hurt or if there's some crazy outside reason that I don't complete it, I'm going to try again. Like, I will complete it at
Like,
some
you
point.
will complete at some point. And you made it happen, right?
Yeah.
And so do you think that, like, when you talk about, like, those, like, if I get hurt or something, right? It's like those are obstacles that come in. Do you think that high performer, that extraordinary people actually face fewer obstacles, like they're just given a golden spoon, or do they simply interpret those obstacles differently?
I think they interpret the obstacles differently.
So like when you see that, when you see like, oh, the idea that I could get hurt, like what goes through your head? How do you reframe that idea?
I look at it as, okay, if I get hurt, I'll learn something from that. I think that's how I face a lot of failures is, okay, well, what did I learn from that? And not so that I can't do it again, but maybe so I can just do it better next time. Or I try to think about, is there a different avenue I can take? Like, it never is a failure. Like, I have learned to reframe everything as a win for myself.
I think that's the right answer. I mean, you're speaking my language. Like everything, there's never a failure. Everything's always a win. And you just have to figure out how, like, the only failures I think in my life are when we do something where we were purposefully lazy about it and then we don't learn anything because we already knew we had to do the right thing. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we already knew what the right answer was. We didn't do it. And then therefore we didn't learn anything because we already knew what the right answer was before we started. And so those to me are the true failures in life. That's where I say, like, that's either succeeding at 40% or just failing at 40%. You've taken the shortcut. You knew you took the shortcut. You knew there was a right way to do it and you skipped it. You didn't get anything out of it, you know? And so I think that's there's so many lines like that, right? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, blah, blah, blah. Right. You kind of have to push things. I mean, the, another line that comes to mind is, I remember reading a book, gosh, was this, Jim Collins? Might've been Jim Collins.
Okay.
Like Jim Collins goes like, or one of them goes, imagine the company, like imagine in your head, the company you want to have the day you start the organization.
Yep.
Right. And then build everything based off that. Right. And so a lot of people tell me I'm like wasting my time, right? I see a company of like hundreds of employees. And so I go around spending my nights like crafting up like complex internal structure and corporate structure and competencies and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, well, we just have a dozen employees. Like, why do you need any of that? Well, because I'm going to have a 100-person company and I'm going to need it. And then people go, like my mom goes, well, why don't you just go and have like a little 4-person practice in like a room? Like, I have so many successful plastic surgeons. No, that's not what I want.
Right.
What I want is 100%.
Not what you're envisioning.
Yeah, it's not what my vision is. And so, I just think that like how do those beliefs, I don't know, where do you see how that life practice in your head, how do people do that? Like, how do you tell someone who doesn't do that right now, how do they start?
I always like to ask people, like, what's your dream? Like, everybody has a dream, right? Some people just...
Do they?
I think so, even if it's simple. Like, some people want a more simple life. That's fine. That's their dream. That's okay. But that you got to start somewhere, right? So if that's what it is, it's, more of a simple life. Okay. And then you start that process of allowing them to think about that. Just like learning to like wonder or think about the life that you want, and then seeing how that you can accomplish that. Well, if I can accomplish that, what else can I accomplish? And then it starts to snowball effect. But the key is bringing the awareness to people about it.
Okay, so if you were in my shoes, you're CEO of the organization, and you have someone in the organization who can't figure out what they want, what their dream is. I think those people do exist. And I tell my wife, she disagrees with me. I believe that anyone can accomplish anything. I truly believe that.
Yeah.
Short of, like you said, some sort of true physical limitation. But like they have to, I say, the way I the phrase it is they have to want it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Which I think in your parlance is they have to at least know it. They have to at least
you
have
to
a dream.
It, and then you also have to pair it with like a feeling. So you have to like feel a passion of intensity towards that dream. You can imagine a lot of things, but there's a lot of things I can imagine, but there's some things I just truly just don't really care much about, or that I'm not passionate about it, so I don't dwell on it much. But you have to pair the thought with a feeling, with intense passion and desire to accomplish that.
That was really well said.
Without that, you don't have
anything.
A true dream. No.
Yeah. I think like, oh, okay, I can imagine myself skydiving, but I don't really want to go skydiving.
Right.
So it's not relevant.
Then that just kind of goes to the wayside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that is, I think it presents a double challenge, right? Because someone A has to dream the thing, and then B, they have to be passionate about it. And this is where the hedgehog, have we done the hedgehog concept yet?
Yeah.
Right. So that's where the hedgehog concept comes in. And then the third thing, and Jim Collins is right, you could be the best in the world at it, which I don't like. I sometimes don't like that part about the hedgehog concept because you don't know, right? Like maybe you're a great ultra marathon runner, but you didn't know that until you like started down the path. And so I don't know, maybe I'm a great ballroom dancer one day. And so I feel like you just have to start and be passionate and find your why, right?
Yeah.
Why you want to do this. Like, why do I want to compete? I want to compete. I started dancing because my wife wanted to dance. And so it was important, and it led us to bond together. And then I realized that we're both a little competitive, and for us to feel like the dancing has purpose, we want to have competition, right? Not against each other, but together. And so, and this is back to Simon Sinek's Start With Why. If no one's read it, and every human on the planet should read that book. It's about finding that start and that kind of purpose.
Can I add one more thing?
Yeah, go for it. You got it.
I think that it's important to do that, to find that why, because I mean, if the goal and the dream is worth it, you're going to face obstacles. It's going to be hard. You might have the perceived failures, like I mentioned. So having that why is what helps you push past those things. It brings okay, even though this is hard, I'm going to keep doing it anyway because I have that intense passion and drive to do it.
I actually have a counterpoint to that, though. When some people go down a path and then somewhere down the path, the thing that they're doing no longer is related to their why.
Okay.
And I think that when people are struggling at something, like they're tackling, I'm trying to think of an example, but they're tackling something and they lose that motivation or that why goes away, they can see themselves struggle. I see this sometimes in our patients, right? Where people like, oh, I'm doing this. Like, let me take my own example, the ballroom, right? Let's say I'm dancing because my wife wants to dance and I love her and it's important and it builds our relationship. And then if she stops dancing, my why goes away.
Okay.
And I will stop dancing, right? And so it's dangerous sometimes to have your why linked to an external motivator.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Like you ran that ultra marathon for you.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not wrong to say like, oh, if my significant other is running an ultra marathon, I'm going to do it too. But I think it definitely weakens your why sometimes, right?
Yeah, I think if your why depends on another person, especially, that can be tricky.
Yeah. And I see that, like people come, they, their why for being here, their why for losing weight is because they, got divorced or their husband or wife is saying something or blah, blah, blah. And I think that sets up a lot of challenges because surgery is hard. Losing weight is hard. Whatever it is hard. And then you go and you do it and you don't get that feeling, right? Because it wasn't for you. Right. And I really try hard not to, I don't want to be judgmental about it. Like I'm not here to, criticize their why per se,
Yeah.
but I do always take that into consideration, you know? Okay, so let's go into this idea, right? That if I believe everyone could be extraordinary, right? But not everyone is,
Right.
right? So there's a gap, right? And so when you look at people, how do you recognize when they're living below their potential?
I think I look at their lives, and I also usually can pick up on it pretty quick based off of how they're treating other people, how they're acting.
Okay, tell me about that. That's interesting.
I think that people who are living out the life that they are imagining or really want in their mind, that brings this sort of satisfaction that I think is part of the purpose of being a human being. And I think when people back out from that, or they're not doing it, they know there's something in their heart that is missing out, and it's like they know it even if they don't know what it is. And I believe that causes them to act a certain way. Usually they're less happy, usually they're more frustrated, or maybe more judgmental towards people that are like living out their dream, because there is sort of an envy. Maybe they don't realize it, but there is.
Gosh, that's really beautiful. I mean, you know, Ashley, like that reminds me of my wife, my marriage. You know, early on in my marriage, my wife and I struggled a lot. Like our first couple years were pretty good, but there was a point in time for probably a stretch of 3 to 5 years where I probably was experiencing exactly what you described, which is my wife really knew exactly what she wanted in life. She had a very clear vision that she was going to be extraordinary, that she was going to be a congenital heart surgeon, and she was going to be one of the few, you know, of the dozen women in this country that has accomplished that goal. She's actually taking her board exam today, and I'm very excited to finally call her board certified congenital heart surgeon. And but she was driven with so much purpose, and I felt very lost in my residency at times with my purpose. And so I think that I was not a good husband. I would come home angry, frustrated with my days, and I would sort of behave poorly because I didn't have that drive and sense of purpose. And it wasn't linked to like, I guess I very much said like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? Yeah. Right. So that's a very interesting observation. I think you're probably right that you can see it in how others interact, you know. And it wasn't until we worked at really reframing our lives and our purpose and why we're doing this that my marriage started to improve. And I thank her every day for being so patient with me during that time that was not good for her, and not good for me either, but probably worse for her. So yeah, I mean, that's okay. So then how do we get people to snap out of it then? How do we get people to, like my question is like, why do people stay in that situation? Why don't they just change it?
I think you were fortunate in the fact that your wife helped you to identify what potentially it was that was making you act like that. I think that most people don't have anybody in their life who's doing that, who's pointing out, hey, I see that you're acting this way, and I think it's because of this, and let's work on that. I think there's a knowledge gap to be able to identify that. I feel like I've read a lot of books that have helped me be able to identify it. I've also intentionally surrounded myself with certain people that I believe are extraordinary or are living out their dream in their mind, which encourages me that I can do it too. But I think if you're not living that out, the key is to be able to identify it. So the answer would be, well, how do we get these people to like really, really identify that? And I think the people like you and me can help, like people that already know, and be patient with them, and maybe somehow get them to come to that conclusion. Yeah,
I mean, like, I also think that there's variants of like extraordinary, I think, is also in the eye of the beholder, right? Like, one person's extraordinary is not another's. And so I think that idea of surrounding yourself with people who are the type of extraordinary that you want to be is, is important. And I guess like I was lucky enough to be married to a person who had the kind of extraordinary I want to be. And it took me a moment to sort of realize it. Right. Yeah. But you're right. You want to, I mean, there's another great line, right? You never want to be the smartest person in the room, I think is
Yeah.
I don't know, whoever's, there's someone who said that, right? Some CEO somewhere. And so, because if you're the smartest person in the room, like, who do you have to sort of aspire to? And, you know, I also, I don't think it's just about like being book smart. So I love to surround myself with people like yourself, right? Who bring all these ideas, all these thoughts, all this perspective, because that enriches my life and helps me think about things in a different way.
Yeah.
And I think that is how we kind of like, you know, move towards that extraordinary. You want to say something?
Yeah, I think just surrounding yourself with people. We live in a world that's very digital, and it's very easy to isolate yourself. But the danger in that is that you're not getting the new ideas from a person. You know what I mean? Like, you can kind of curate your own ideas that filter into your mind. So you never break out of that, versus if you are around other people in different environments, if you're coming to work or whatever, you're getting the experience of being around other people that are infusing you with information.
Gosh, it is tough, right? Because especially the internet is so curated, right? Like, and we'll finish this episode and Carly will take it. She'll take out like the best lines, right? The best lines you gave, and we'll post it on the internet. And, you know, we might miss the entire segment about me talking about the struggles with my wife. And only if people listen to the whole podcast will they get that just because you see an extraordinary person doesn't mean that their life is like all easy, right? Yeah. And the internet has, I think, really, really screwed with our minds that way, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, just constant flood of grass is greener all the time, and none of it's real, right? And, you know, we struggle. I mean, even me, I'm like, I want to do this podcast. I want to do it unfiltered, right? We're just talking. Like, there's nothing scripted about it, but it becomes filtered to a certain extent the minute we chop it up and put it in little 90-second segments for people to like digest. Right. It's hard. I mean,
it is.
I have one last thought as we wrap up, but like, you know, I saw this line, right? An extraordinary life is a life lived twice, first in the imagination, then in reality, right? The question isn't whether you have potential, it's whether you're willing to close the gap between the person you are today and the person you've already imagined becoming.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love that. That's great.
So we're busy people.
Yeah.
Some people don't even have time to imagine.
I know.
It's tough, right?
It is tough.
And so where do you think we come in? You know, if someone comes in and doesn't know what they want, do you think that it's PCPS's job to help them figure it out, or do you think that'll lead us into problems?
I don't think we should take on that as our sole responsibility. I think our goal should be to help people see themselves as the best version that they can see themselves, but ultimately you have to, like we were talking about earlier, you have to want it yourself, and that is a personal decision. Yeah. It all comes down to your decision to want to pursue whatever it is. Our job is to help them potentially identify what that could be. I think our job is to close the gap. Yeah. Right. Like, what we're doing is helping people close gaps. That's where I see ourselves as. And so when people come in and they're like, well, what do you think is best? Whatever you think is best, right? Like, I'm never going to tell someone what I think is best, which is a little bit strange because people often come and pay me money for my opinion, but that's not quite the opinion I want to give. And that's maybe a little bit different than some other surgeons out there, but that's kind of our thing. I'm here to close gaps, not to implant ideas in people's heads. So, anything else? Yeah. Okay. So. That was awesome. Well, Ashley, it was awesome having you on the podcast. We'll have to have another great episode. I don't have anything for next week, but, we'll always come up with something new. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And go out there and close some gaps, in your own life. Go be extraordinary. Thanks, everyone. That's a great job.